obviously after I finish, we'll have an opportunity to open up for any questions that you all have about the program and thoughts that you all may have as well. So again, good morning. I think probably the biggest news item that came out this year was the start of the year and hiring Coach Brown as our new football coach. It's kind of been fast and furious since January 5th, the day that we announced that he was hired. I can say that the staff is working, or has been working nonstop since January. Coach has got his staff in order. A lot of things are happening over there as we speak. The recruiting in the January-February time period was the key when the staff came first on board to make sure we solidified the recruits and got them in before the February signing period. I believe had a beautiful day for the spring game, a great crowd out there for the spring game. So really everything from that aspect went really well. We played a little bit of catch up in the recruiting, for the 2019 season. Had some kids extra scholarships remaining. I think some of you have written about that, and the kids we've gotten here in the last several weeks that transferred or coming into us. With the new recruiting calendar, it was last weekend was the first official visit opportunity for 2020 recruits. So that's started a little bit earlier than it has in the past based upon the NCAA recruiting calendar. So we had a group of young men come in last week for their official visits for their 2020 class. So it was pretty exciting, an opportunity to meet new recruits and parents. And again, this is several months earlier than the past. You used to not be able to bring them until the fall. Obviously, they're playing in their high school season, so a lot of the recruiting visits official visits didn't even occur until after the season into early December and sometimes in January. So this was something that we're all trying to get adjusted to with the recruiting calendar. And I think last weekend went very well, and I believe they're trying to work on another one later this summer. Summer workouts with the current student athletes have been going on for several weeks now, and Coach gave them a couple weeks off after the academic year had completed. They came back late May. Have been working out with Mike Joseph and his staff. Seems to be going very well. They'll have a small break around the July 4th week, and they'll come back for three weeks approximately. And end of July, first part of August, they'll come back for camp. So football will be here before we know it, and the first kick will be on August 31st. One thing I want to mention, just doesn't only pertain to football, but I think there's been a lot of written about the transfer portal, the NCAA transfer portal. I think from our perspective at WVU, I look at that, and our numbers really haven't changed from years past. I think the national narrative of Ben is this transfer portal has opened up all kinds of opportunities to transfer and giving these students access in a free agent market. From West Virginia's standpoint, I can't give you numbers of other institutions. Our numbers look the same across the board, not only in football, but all of our other sports that it has in previous years as well. Understanding the transfer portal, the only thing that has changed is now they don't need a permission to transfer or talk to other institutions about the possibility of transferring. They enter the portal. If they want to transfer, receive aid, they can do that. Obviously, there's communication with our coaching staff along the way, but the new rule doesn't allow the school not to grant that permission. So that's new, but I can tell you from our standpoint again that those numbers don't look any different. I think the national narrative again has been there's a lot of young men, young women in the transfer portal, and I think that's one due to a lot of walk-ons. They don't have the data to go back. They are going back and looking at that information and trying to narrow that down to figure out, from the transfer situation what that looks like from a national perspective. So we'll have more information on that. The Climbing Higher campaign, just a quick update. We continue to push forward with that. I can say that when I announced last year that we're moving forward with this campaign of $100 million, it's very aggressive. I understand that. But I think the importance of upgrading our facilities is a key to our future success. My job as your director of athletics is not to look at today and tomorrow. It's to look 3 years, 5 years down the road. I think one thing I can point to is Mon County Baseball Park. If you look at that, the success that we've had in baseball, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, I don't think if we have Mon County Baseball Park and still playing baseball at Holly Field that we're going to have success in our program like we did this year in baseball. So, I believe in the facilities make a difference in our programs. I'll continue to believe that. I'll continue to push that. And we'll continue to upgrade as much as we can within budget constraints and push forward as we look at our facilities. The MAC staff is doing a great job. We've had a lot of interest from our donors about our upgrades and what we're doing. I can share that we have not had that gift come in yet. That's that big transformational gift. We have had a lot of interest in gifts being given, but we're still looking for that signed document, that transformational gift, and we'll continue pushing forward with that as well. But I think from the Pushkar Operations Center that we're finishing up that phase. Phase 2, what I call it, is the visitor team locker room area. That allows us to start the next phase, which would be our team locker room area, the new equipment area, new team room in that specific area, in addition to the Hall of Fame area out front of the building. The plans is to start that after this football season, and then we'll do some other things as well as we move forward. So that's you'll see a lot of things changing after this football season. That's going to come out of the ground over there as well. So we're excited about that. I will say that the golf has, where we've been leasing White Day Golf Course. We're in the transition of purchasing that land. So we're excited about that opportunity to get the land, and then we'll start the next phase of the course itself. And then the last phase of that would become the building that they would hit from and have their locker room areas and everything there. So that's all in good shape. Just from a seasonal highlights and academic highlights, I can share, and you saw the press release, and I'm very proud of this as your director of athletics. We've had the highest APR score from the NCAA in school history of a 985, which was 2 points higher than the national average. Again, the department GPA for this year, for the total academic year across all sports, roughly 475 to 500 student athletes, was a 3.26 average, which is higher than the student body grade point average. Our coaches, our academic staff, give them a lot of credit for what they do for our student athletes and pushing academics and continuing to have our GPAs climb higher as well. We had 13 teams over 3.0 for the year. Football had the highest GPA ever at the 2.94 as a team, and I can share this with you. The lowest GPA was a 2.86 across all teams. So again, all the teams are performing at a very high rate in the classroom as well. From a seasonal athletic highlights, again, I'll probably miss some as I go through here, but just kind of starting in the fall, both soccer's made the NCAA tournament. Men's soccer won the MAC regular season championship, which is a daunting task. It's a very good soccer league. They end up losing the MAC championship in the postseason championship to Akron, who ended up being the runner-up nationally. So obviously, they continue to compete at a high level. Same as women's soccer. Football made his 5th straight bowl appearance. We had Will Greer finish 4th in the Heisman vote. We had 5 draft picks plus another 3 student athletes who were free agents. Rifle had the opportunity to host here, which I'll touch on. Ended up as the NCAA runner-up for this year. We sent 5 wrestlers to the NCAA, 3 swimmers, both the men's and women's, to the NCAAs. Gymnastics made it to the NCAA's. Track and field obviously sent individuals to the track and field NCAA championships. Then the two sports in spring that really highlighted and capped off the year were golf. Made a historical trip to the NCAA tournament. Was 2 strokes away from making the national final field in golf. I give a lot of credit to Coach Kovich and what he's done with that program in a very short time without a facility. He told me if we had the facility, he would have been in the national championship. That was a 2 strokes, so that was my 2-stroke penalty, I guess. But he's done a great job, with what we have and doing the best that he can, with a lack of a true hitting range and a course and all that he can play on. So I give Coach a lot of credit there. Baseball, Randy Mazey's done an outstanding job with baseball. Again, couldn't be more proud of student athlete Alec Manoa, 6-time All-American. There's still hopefully more awards to come for him. Great young man, great student athlete here at West Virginia, and a lot of other student athletes on that baseball team that got drafted as well. But it was a great season, great opportunity for us to host the NCAAs here in Mon County Park. Probably not the way we wanted to finish the game, but hey, you don't get in those situations unless you make the field to begin with. So, the season was a great success, a lot of accomplishments throughout the year. And again, you just hope these type of things springboard you into the following years with recruits and helps us in future years to come. So a lot of great things coming from that baseball program. Again, talking about the baseball park, it was phenomenal crowds, especially on Friday night, a record-setting crowd. I believe it was around 4,400 is what we announced. There was a lot of, when I got here in 2015, the ballpark was just being finished. There was a lot of critics saying that ballpark would never get filled up. So I think we proved that wrong very quickly. So hopefully we can continue at a high rate and have the great fan support in baseball as the future comes forward. Just hosting NCAA and Big 12 events, I want to say that, very proud of our department, our event management staff, under the leadership of April Messerly and what they do day in and day out. You don't really realize until you look at calendars how many events that we actually host. I believe it's around 150 events each year that we host here in Morgantown. And that's just our events by itself. That's not counting some of the NCAA as well as other conference events. We had the opportunity to host NCAA events in men's and women's soccer, which I talked about, at Dick DeLess Stadium. We hosted our first ever championship in Morgantown with the rifle program, best ever attendance in NCAA history. We had more than 2,000 fans, and the previous attendance record was around 900. So I consider that a great success in shattering that attendance record. We have had the opportunity to host the Big 12 Golf Championship, which was the first Big 12 championship that we got to host as a member of the Big 12, and hosted that in the Greenbrier. I think there was a little bit of hesitancy to come to the Greenbrier. They've been stuck in their ways of the courses out in the Midwest. I think once they got there and played the White Day course at Greenbrier, I got a feeling from a lot of the athletic directors, hearing from their coaches, that hopefully that becomes part of the rotation in the golf championship in the Big 12. So had a great event, and obviously it's a great golf conference with the likes of Texas and Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, and go on and on with those programs. So that was nice to be able to do that. Again, talked about the baseball regional to be able to host the first time since 1955. Next year we'll host the Big 12 gymnastics and swimming and diving will come to the new aquatic center, which I'm hopeful that we're still on track. We took a tour last Friday. Our date that we're still looking at is late October, that the complex will be completely finished, and for the opportunity from a competitive standpoint for us to move into that facility as a swimming diving program come end of October. So that leads me to one last thing that I wanted to share with you. And being here 4.5 years, I've gotten a question, especially the first couple times, about what's the impact of WVU athletics to the state? What's the impact to Mon County? I never really had those specific answers. I could take a guesstimate of what those numbers and what the economic impact would look like. So we commissioned in the summer of 2016 Trip Ombach, a national renowned company that does these type of studies and research on economic impacts, to come and visit Morgantown. Their research lasted from 2016 or 17, the fall of 2017, all the way through the 17-18 academic year that they visited during competitions, had surveys, questioned fans about their locations, and gathered data to give us the final report. And I have with me today Carrie Kennedy, the senior principal at Trip Ombach, that will share a seat up here with me in a second and talk about the study. We received it in final draft form late winter, or late fall, early winter, I should say, but never really had the opportunity to sit with you all and talk about this. But I think once you see the numbers, now when questions are asked, what's the economic impact that athletics has on this state and this county, I'll be able to address that. Carrie, if you want to come on up. In the meantime, I think there's some booklets that Michael will pass out about the economic impact study. I think you'll see that the numbers are significant to what the Mountaineers mean to the state and to Mon County. I think on the screen here, you'll see the key features when that comes up here. But what the study found is from a state impact, that you have a $302 million, almost $303 million economic impact on the state. Visitor and fan spending was roughly $246 million per year, and the operations aspect is roughly almost $57 million per year. Talks about the employment on the state of West Virginia, what that means during our events and around the state, and the tax impact on the state of West Virginia is roughly $18.6 million. On the county standpoint, it's roughly to the Mon County, it's $78.8 million. A total impact from the fan spending at $63.3 million, and then operations aspect is $15.5. Again, you can see the employment impact on the county of Monongalia there as well. In the booklets that Michael handed out, there's more of a breakdown, and I'm not going to go into the specifics of the breakdowns, but on page 1011 gives you the breakdown of football and what that specifically related to football. And then we ask Trip Ombach also to break it out into men's basketball, which is on page 1415, and then all other sports are listed on 1819 are those together. So I want to ask Carrie to talk to you all a little bit about their research, how they come up with these numbers. But I thought it was important as a department, as we move forward, that I have a better understanding, we have a better understanding, what we mean to this state and to the county. So Carrie, thank you for being here.
Oh, no problem. Just to give you a little bit of background, Trip Ombach has conducted athletic studies for other universities, University of Tennessee, Penn State, University of Washington, just a few of them. And so to give you a little bit of information, we normally would conduct an impact study on operations, but because athletics means so much more than just the operational impact, we spent a lot of time gathering surveys at various activities, events, games, and surveying the visitors to these games and events to find out what their spending is, how far they're coming from, just to get some information, primary information on the spending patterns and the activities and how much they generate into the local economy. And so when people come from outside of the county, it generates more of an impact than just people that are circulating their money in the community because they would do that whether the university was here or not. And so those are the dollars that come into the economy in the county and really create the impact. So you can see, the operations of the university's athletics is impressive, but the real impact comes from the visitor spending. And then just to give you a little background about the direct, that's the actual employees that are paid a paycheck from the university or the athletic department. The indirect and induced are those that are either generated from household spending or the spending that the university has because of their activities. And then that comes together to create the total impact. And so without getting into too much detail or making this too boring, if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions for Carrie now, please.
Carrie, did you do anything on viewership, television viewership, cable, or how that impacts economically?
That actually is an impact that's not calculated in this, no. So I'm sure, just to give you a baseline, that the impact is probably much higher if you calculated it.
How wide ranging was the survey as far as respondents? How many did you get?
There were, I believe, 6 events that were surveyed. There were a few football events, a few basketball events, and then women's basketball as well. And so, throughout the entire event, there were surveys collected. I'm sure that I'm not sure off the top of my head, but the total number of surveys was well over 400.
I'll give you a little, CPAS students helped us. Sam Marone was kind of the lead on this from the business office, and then Simon Dover came in at the tail end when we were finishing this up and took some things over. But Sam, I don't know, we had CPAS. I know that they were there before games with the surveys, talking to anybody that will come up, take the survey. So we tried to get as much broad-based as possible.